The term Rolex alternative gets thrown around pretty often, specifically when referring to the Submariner. Today, we're going to take a look at a watch that I genuinely feel is an alternative to the Rolex Submariner. It's from Grand Seiko. It's the SLGA023. This is a titanium dive watch that basically outclasses the Rolex Submariner. However, for some reason, Grand Seiko divers get no love from collectors. Let's flip the camera and take a look at what I think is a great dive watch, the SLA023. It's no secret, I'm not a huge fan of Rolex. There was a time in the past where I did want to own a Rolex. I've gone to ADs, however, every single time I've done that, I've ended up buying another brand. For one reason or another, the pricing is probably a major factor in that. However, I think there are tons of really good alternatives, and I know a lot of people don't like the term alternative, but there are true alternatives out there. And this is a Grand Seiko. It's the SLGA023. It's in high intensity titanium. It's part of the Evolution 9 collection. And I have to say, this is an amazing alternative to a Rolex Submariner. This was actually lent into the channel by ExquisiteTimepieces.com. They are an authorized dealer for not only Grand Seiko, but Seiko and many other brands. I will put a link to their website down in the description below. If you're interested in this watch, or really any watch, check out their website. They have tons of watches on there, and they are really great to deal with. Anyway, like I mentioned, this is part of the Evo 9 collection. That means that this is sort of a step forward in Grand Seiko design. It's in titanium, high intensity titanium, and it's very scratch resistant. This also gets a wave pattern on the dial. That dial is inspired by the currents off the shores of Japan. And it's a beautiful deep blue dial with a beautiful wave pattern. You also have a blue bezel, and the bezel action is very, very good on this watch. We'll do that in just a few minutes. This is in 43 millimeters, so if you actually measure it at the bezel, it's around 43.5 millimeters. It's a little bit bigger than that if you measure it at the case, because you do have these crown guards that are sort of sweeping that cover that crown. The crown is around 6.8 millimeters. And then it's around 13.5 millimeters thick, and then the lug to lug is around 51 millimeters, just under 51 millimeters if you measure the case. At the bracelet, because you do get male end links, it's around 54.8 millimeters. You get drilled lugs and a beautiful titanium bracelet. And what I like about this bracelet, it almost looks like an oyster style bracelet, but of course they have those extra pieces in those mid links. So those are actually 3 links. And what they do here is basically mat all of them so it looks like one link. I really like that. And you have a chamfered edge along the edge of the bracelet itself, and it's actually a polished edge. You have a beautiful polished edge that goes along the case. Everything is so crisp and clean on this watch. The transitions are perfect. It is really nicely finished. The only thing I could say about this watch that I don't like is the buckle. I've experienced this buckle in the past. It is their sort of dive style buckle. It has a ratcheting, and it's a really nice fold over clasp, but it is pressed, I believe. This part is pressed, but when you pull back the keeper here and you pull out, it actually has an extension in it. That is a little bit annoying because when you're putting it on your wrist, sometimes it will actually ratchet out, and then you just have to slide it back in. But that's my biggest complaint with Grand Seiko and their divers. This is a buckle that's used by Seiko as well. You have some on-the-fly micro adjust that's sort of built into it, but then you have 4 positions of manual micro adjust, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's a really nice buckle, but it's a little too complicated. I think they can come up with something that's a little bit more simple, something like, you know, what Rolex does. But that's just my opinion. Again, all in all, I think that it is functional. The crown on here is really nicely etched and signed with the Grand Seiko logo as well, and you do get drilled lugs for changing straps and stuff like that. Screwed in case back, and it is a solid case back, so you cannot see the spring drive movement that's inside. Inside this watch, you are getting a 5-day spring drive movement. That is the 9RA5, and it is obviously a really nicely decorated movement. However, you can't see it. You do get a power reserve on the dial right there, right around the between the 9 and 8 o'clock position. And a lot of people don't know this, but spring drive movements are technically direct drive. I don't know if that's the right term, but that's the term that's used for kinetic movements. So you could actually wind the crown and power the watch up, so you could watch your power reserve obviously climb as you wind the watch. I probably would not suggest doing that. You should just wear the watch and get the power reserve up by winding the rotor itself, but you know, you can do that if you need to. Let's listen to the bezel action. The bezel is very grippy. You can see these huge notches, and in between each one of those notches, it is polished. Really just a beautifully made watch. Let's listen to the bezel action. Really smooth bezel action, feels very, very nice, precise clicks. You have sort of a raised bezel on here, and it is ceramic. I don't know if the bezel is lumed. Usually Seiko don't do that, but this does have Lume Bright on the indices. The indices are applied and they are raised very high off of that dial, and they are very liberally applied with Lume Bright. And then you have Grand Seiko dive style hands. You have an arrow for that minute's hand, and then sort of a arrow dagger for the hour hand. It's segmented, and those are filled with lume. You have a lollipop on the second hand that is lumed as well. We will do a lume shot at the end of the video. Very quickly, I'm going to throw it on my wrist. We'll talk about price, and then we will do a lume shot. Today on my wrist, I have another titanium watch. This is my latest purchase. It is a IWC GST gold, steel, titanium. This one is in titanium. Perpetual calendar chronograph with moon phase. You can see that gold moon right there. It has an aventurine disc that's sitting on, and then you have a digital display for the year. A very complicated watch in titanium. I absolutely love it. This is an old watch from 2006, I believe. So even though this is a 43.5mm watch, I think it feels very, very light on wrist because of that titanium. And it's really not that thick, around 13.5mm. It's not terrible. And it just says at the bottom of the dial, obviously it says spring drive 5 days, and then it says divers 200 meters, because this is a 200-meter dive watch. The Grand Seiko logo is applied, and then right below that it just says Grand Seiko. The wave texture on this dial is phenomenal. I'll do plenty of close-ups so you can see what I'm talking about. Price on this watch is $11,600. That seems like a lot of money, but when you think about the competition and what they're selling for, well over list price, this is something that you could actually walk into a local AD, exquisitettimepieces.com, down in Naples, Florida, or go on their website and buy it. You don't have to worry about wait lists or any of that BS. You could just go buy this watch. It's currently available on their website. If you like it, go buy it. That's it. No games. No games. And honestly, my time is very important to me. I don't want to waste time waiting for a watch. I want to be wearing the watch. It's silly what these Rolex ADs are doing. This is an awesome watch that you could buy right now. Well, Lume Bright never disappoints. It's very liberally applied to the hands and indices. You even have a little bit in that lollipop. Actually, I should say a lot in that lollipop. It's very bright. Excellent lume. I wish they did lume the bezel a little bit more. You just have a pip. It would be nice. I wish Seiko would get on board with that, but I totally understand it. This looks great, and I think they do a great job with these watches. That high intensity titanium is scratch resistant. It's light. It's a bigger watch, but it wears really nice on my 7.5-inch wrist. I think even people with smaller wrists could pull this watch off with ease. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Please don't forget to check out exquisitettimepieces.com. Down in the description below, I'll put a link there. They are an authorized dealer for many brands, but if you are interested in this specific watch, obviously they currently have it in stock, and they have tons of other Seikos and Grand Seikos and many other brands like Longines and a lot of the brands that I like to review here on my channel. They have all those watches in stock, and they are authorized dealers for those brands as well. So definitely hit them up over email, tell them Watch Chris sent you. I appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I will catch you guys in the next video.